I guess Malaysia is in a pretty good spot, given where oil prices are right now. Is that helping you to achieve your growth target for the year of 5.3 to 6.4%, as estimated by the central bank?
Right. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here, Haslinda. It's good to be back in Davos. For Malaysia, you're right. We are a net beneficiary of the increase in commodity prices. We just posted the first quarter results. Our GDP was strong, above expectation, above market expectations, above IMF expectation was 5%, and we are optimistic that we are on track to achieve what you mentioned just now, between 5.3 to 6.3%. Second quarter looks strong as well, driven by consumption, and of course, the commodity prices has helped Malaysia. However, having said that, what's also concerned, the challenge that Malaysia faces is that we also continue to support subsidies, increase in our subsidies. Therefore, we can see that inflation in Malaysia is relatively low. Inflation in Malaysia is about 2.3%. Even IMF is projecting around 2 to 3%. We are also projecting the same. We have recently tightened a bit our monetary policy, increased rates by 25 basis points to 2%, but that's still very much lower than what it was before COVID-19. It was around 3%, right? So we still have room there. So we are monitoring closely what's happening globally, as Malaysia, being an open economy, is obviously...
You don't seem too concerned about inflation, but inflation is at a 4-year high and people are feeling it. I mean, there's a shortage of chicken and people are complaining about how they can't afford their daily goods. I mean, how is the government looking at it? What kind of support can you give beyond the subsidies you're already giving?
So that's a good question, because if you look at core inflation for Malaysia, it's at 2.2%. Well, yesterday we announced 2.3% now. However, when you look at food inflation, that's around 4%. But for Malaysia, it's cushioned by the subsidies, as I mentioned. Just chicken itself, for the first time, we are actually subsidizing chicken. Price of chicken is capped at 8 ringgit 90 cents per kg. And what has happened is that the subsidies has amounting to close to 730 million ringgit of subsidy to keep the chicken at that price. But of course, Malaysia, as you know, fortunately we have the resources to do so, and our oil price is one of the cheapest at petrol prices, cheapest at 2 ringgit 5 cents, and that's around 40 cents US dollar, right? So that's, again, it's a heavy subsidy. Just to give you a number in absolute terms, our subsidy last year, what we budgeted for this year, is around 30 billion. But with the increase in food prices, increase in petrol prices, and other prices, right, palm oil, cooking oil, we are subsidizing that as well. Total subsidy this year will be around 71 billion ringgit, more than double.
Do you remove the subsidies? Do you increase the subsidies? Because your coffers have been hit by the 1MDB scandal.
Okay. Let's address the first part. Our coffers will be okay because of what you said earlier. We are fortunate that the commodity prices has increased, so that has buffered the increase in subsidies. But we need to increase subsidies because we know, especially the vulnerable groups in Malaysia, needs to have subsidies to continue with their cost of living, right? Their livelihoods. On 1MDB, total debt, that was 38 billion. Recovery now is at 50%, which is a very good number, as you know. Recovery of, if we go to courts or settlement, usually recovery is around 5 to 10%. That's 50%. So we have to date recovered about 19 billion ringgit. A total debt size, just to give put things into context, debt and liability of Malaysia is around 1.4 trillion. So 19 billion out of 1.4 trillion. Having said that, we must make sure that we institutionalize some of the reforms to ensure that what happened in 1MDB doesn't happen again.
Speaking of 1MDB, what's the latest? I mean, how far away are you from that settlement with IPIC in Abu Dhabi, for instance?
Okay. All right. Okay. On IPIC, the court proceeding continues in London, so that continues. So we will have to wait until that concludes, right? So we are in that period where things are at the court, so we're going to continue there.
So what will happen with Joe Low? How far away are you from getting the money back from Joe Low?
Well, we don't know where he is. So, but as I said, to date, we have managed to collect 50% of what's outstanding.
You talked about how you need to build on your coffers. I mean, Malaysia has considered raising the GST, which was, of course, derailed by Mahathir Mohamad when he was Prime Minister. Is that still part of the plan?
Well, I think it was a mistake when we repealed the GST, because in terms of revenue, we've lost close to 20 billion ringgit of revenue. Having said that, we are studying various options, including reintroducing the GST. It's a matter of timing. As we know, the global economy is just recovering today. Malaysia also recovering. So I think timing-wise, we have to make sure that the timing is right if we want to introduce a new form of tax.
Talk to us about the time frame you're looking at. When might you raise your GST?
Well, first of all, it has to go to Cabinet. Cabinet has to agree, and then it has to go to Parliament because it was repealed. If it was zero rise, then I can quickly reintroduce it if we want to, if the Cabinet approves. And now it has to go to Parliament. So Parliament will take, between Cabinet to Parliament, probably take 6 months, right? So earliest will be middle of next year.
With the divergence in monetary policy between Malaysia and the US, we've seen the ringgit getting smacked. In fact, it's down about 6% year to date versus the USD. Are you concerned about the level? What is fair value? And might you consider pegging the currency again?
We will not consider pegging. I think we made it clear, the central bank has made it clear, it's not an option. We will continue to monitor through the central bank. Of course, the government do not get involved in this. It is monetary policy under the Act. It's under the central bank, and the central bank is independent. But we think we are on the right track. As I said earlier, our interest rate has gone up by 25 basis points, mainly because of the strength of the economy. I think we are able to increase it without having much adverse impact to the economy because of where we are. But again, it is still accommodative because it is at 2% compared to 3% before this. And it was 3%, this 2% is the lowest in the last 10 years.
So you're comfortable with where the ringgit is right now?
The ringgit, if you look at ringgit where we are versus dollars, compare it with other currencies, as you know, euro, pound, everyone else, yuan, yen. I mean, it is also has weakened against dollars. But it has, there will be winners and losers in this sector. But overall, we are comfortable where it is today.